Good morning, Simmers, and welcome to London City Airport in Orbx GB South. In the Piper, we're going for a VFR flight to explore the new Orbx GB South scenery. So without further ado, let's switch off track IR for a second, release the parking brake, and take off to see what we have here. Now, what you have to be aware of when you buy this scenery is that it takes a long time to download and install it. The download is, I thought, 26 or 27 gigabytes. Let's just take off first. Here we go. Gear up. So like I said, the download is 26 gigabytes, and to give you a picture of what's going on when you buy it, you buy it of course from the Orbx web shop. Then you have to then you run the installer. The installer will start downloading the package, and then it will install the scenery, and then it has to convert something like a little less than 12,000 files. So for your reference, I purchased the product yesterday evening around 22:50, and I was capable of making my first flight at 1:20 a.m. So it took me a good 2.5 hours between purchase and first flight, because it's a massive product, of course. And why is it massive? Because this product will cover, it covers all of southern England and most of Wales, and it's actually quite easy to show you because Orbx, they released a document where they show you what it is, and basically what it comes down to is this area. This is covered by this download. So you don't have the northern part of Wales, you don't have Liverpool, but it's exactly these basically Ortho 4XP tiles that you can replace before you install Orbx GB South. Now I removed my Ortho, my zone photo scenery tiles, and I removed the London XP scenery. So basically what we're flying over now is just Orbx GB South with I think, I'm not really sure whether the landmarks are Orbx or X-Plane, but I thought they were Orbx. So let's just see what they made of London. So let's just add in a little bit of trim, slightly reducing thrust. Or power, I must say. I let the performance window, or the frame rate window, running in the top left of the screen, so you can see the frame rates. System specs are in the description of the video. And I must say this runs very, very smooth, much smoother than I expected, while we overfly Canary Wharf with the financial district of London. And this looks very, very nice. So I have high hopes for the rest of the London landmarks. Of course, we have the chart on the horizon, which is this skyscraper. So let's take a peek from the outside. So I just took off London City Airport, runway 27. And Another piece of advice on the installation, Frugal Sim came up with that one yesterday evening. It's on his Facebook page. The installer right now still has a problem, so when you download and install it, and it might just look like crap, and that has to do with the order of the scenery.ini or scenery packs file. After download, you have to manually put the, where are they? You have to make sure that the Orbx GB South Orthos is the lowest of 3 lines. This is Orbx GB South Orthos. On top of that should be Orbx GB South overlays, and somewhere over here on top of that should be the custom line. By default, the installer will place them exactly the other way around, which makes sure that you only look at the orthos, which look, well, kind of awful. So make sure that before you, so after install, just start the sim, close it down immediately after it's in the menu for like new flight or resume last flight. Shut it down, because that will have these lines included in your scenery packs file. Then you have to go to the scenery packs file, rearrange the order of these 3 lines, save it, close this file, then restart the sim, and then you're good to go with the very, very nice looking southeastern Great Britain. And another thing that I can recommend, well, at least that's what I hoped. Last night I ran it with X-Europe V2, and I thought that was the cause of the Tower Bridge being an apartment building, but unfortunately it isn't. It's still an apartment building right now, so I think there's something wrong in there. But other key landmarks like the Tower, City Hall, HMS Belfast, the more famous skyscrapers, they are all included, as well as St. Paul's Cathedral. Looks like they missed an exclusion zone there or something like that. At least so far I'm pleasantly surprised with the frame rates. They maintain, well, high 30s, low 40s, which is excellent. And what I also lack here is the House of Parliament that should be in here with the Big Ben. This is Westminster Abbey. Which means this would be the, I think, MI6 headquarters. Famous from the James Bond movie, of course. The power station, or whatever it is. It looks like one of them power stations from Red Alert, if you still know that game. So the landmarks that are included actually look very, very nice. These are the... I know in here is where they have that Churchill Museum in the Cabinet War Rooms, which is really, really worth a visit if you ever get to London. Been there twice. That's Buckingham Palace down there. That's also included. must say this looks pretty smashing. Let's just see what my rendering settings are right now. Graphics, so number of world objects is high, reflection minimal. So these are just, I think, very decent settings. I can take a look what the frame rate impact will be when I raise this bar too high, but that will have to sim. Yeah, it will give us the load screen for a while. Let's just see what it goes when it goes to maximum. So done. So let's take a look. Frame rates are now in the mid to high 30s. So going from high to max has a frame rate impact of, well, between, I would say, 6 and 10 frames per second. But just look at this. This is, wow. This video is not about clean flying, so you will see some rough maneuvering on the airplane, but it's purely to show the GB South scenery, and I think the London area is, well, pretty impressive, to say the least. So let's head back and go to the south bank of the Thames, or what we can do as well is follow the Thames River for a bit and see how UK 2000s or how the add-on airport for London Heathrow blends in. That's not UK 2000, by the way, it's Aerosoft. I think then from Heathrow I can fly to Gatwick, that is UK 2000's Gatwick. So we can just see how these airports blend in with the Orbx scenery. Let's see what happens here. We're still climbing. And of course from the inside the frame rates are lower, but that's also because I'm now using Track IR, which always has an impact on the frames, as well as the fact that I'm recording right now. That will also eat some performance. So if you're just flying here without recording the video, without using Track IR, my guess is that you will get a pretty decent frame rate. So that's a promise Orbx made true. Let's see where the hell we're going. Yes, we have to go to the left. So anyway, this visibility is not really helpful in this video, so let me just clear some of the weather. Flight configuration, customize, manually configured, and go to scattered clouds. There we are. So let's see what we have. We have a significant frame rate impact. We are now down to the 20s. So with full clear skies, Of course, the sim has to load in a lot more objects to show, so of course that has a frame rate impact, which is significant. We are now down to the low to mid 20s. But basically anything over 20 frames per second will give your eye the perception of a smooth flight, so that's what we're aiming for, and I'm, well, just making that. And what we also have to take into consideration is that this is basically a very light airplane for this sim. The Piper Aero 3 is not that complicated. My guess is that if I would fly to London Heathrow with the flight factor A320, I couldn't run on these settings, because I think they will go down to 15, maybe even 10 frames per second. Anyway, we should be going towards Heathrow, which should be somewhere over there. So let's just take a look. But to fly GA airplanes, which is basically what the Orbx GB South scenery was designed for, that's something that is very, very well. It is, oh, sorry, that is doable, I should say. Because flying in the GA airplane, receiving 20 frames per second over a densely built up area like London, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. So we have Heathrow down there, so let's just make a flight and head towards the airport. We'll just go straight through all the restricted airspaces. We're not gonna bother about it. I left X live traffic off, so we don't have to worry about airplanes taking off or landing there. Just look at this. This is just a domestic area surrounding London, and the amount of detail is just stunning. The placement of the houses is very nice, and for some reason they also give that typically British feel to it. Been to London I think 5 or 6 times or something like that. And well, of course this is not how it looks in real life, but the general feel that you get is actually very, very good. It's these rows of houses. So here we are coming up to Aerosoft's Heathrow. So let's see how that blends, and it does seem to blend quite well. So my first impression is that this works. You can easily use Orbx GB South with the at least the Aerosoft Heathrow, and well, if it works with one, then my guess would be that it would work with other sceneries as well. But of course, Heathrow by Aerosoft is also quite a heavy scenery. It has quite a significant impact on performance. And now we do see that we are dropping below the 20 frames per second. It's getting more stutters. So the combination is quite heavy. If you have if you don't have a high-end PC, then I wouldn't recommend using this scenery in combination with with the Orbx GB South. So let's just turn away from the airport, head south. Try to find our way towards Gatwick. So let's just dial that one in. Let me just switch off track IR for a second. There we go. Now we have a nice straight line towards Gatwick, so let's just try to follow that. I think I will alter my visibility slightly to make it run just a little bit smoother. So 25 miles, that's a bit much. Let's set that back to 19. Apply the changes. See if that makes any difference. Well, that's not too much. I think it will help a lot more to reduce the number of object settings, but on the other hand, this is so far this is smooth enough for me, and I kind of like the looks of this with all the objects in there. Plane has a tendency to roll to the right. It's probably because there's a little bit of wind involved. And we're now flying back to London City Airport. That's not where we want to go. We want to go to Gatwick, so let's just make a far sharp right turn. And let's make it a direct 2. That's a lot easier to navigate. So we're now approaching the area to the south of London. Oh, let's go to the outside view again. Here we are. But this is just amazing. The number of objects, the placement of the objects makes me think that this product is definitely worth the money. It's about 55 Australian dollars. And for those $55 you get the entire south part of the UK, including the south part of Wales, or almost all of Wales actually. Slight strip to the north isn't included. But just look at this. So in short, the add-ons that are running right now, of course the main part is the subject of this video, Great Britain South by Orbx. The sky and weather are SkyMax Pro V4.6, and the airplane is the wonderful Just Flight Piper Turbo Aero. And that's about it. Now, some people have asked the question like, what's the benefit of this scenery over the Ortho 4XP photo tiles? Well, the main benefit of this package is the fact that everything that you're looking at is basically colored. So when you use Ortho 4XP photos, well, of course, every photo is like a square. And not all the photos are taken in the same day, time, place, time of year. So you get all these differences in color. So you really see all the patches. And with this scenery, that has been completely removed, which I think is something that adds to the realism. It's not very realistic to fly over basically an ortho photo that was taken in summer, and then the adjacent photo was taken in, let's say, spring. Because if you look at that, then you immediately see that you're in a computer program. And right now, with everything being drawn in basically the same colors, the same season, it's only summer, by the way, there are no seasons in X-Plane yet. But at least this really enhances the feeling of really flying over terrain. You don't see the sharp edges of photo scenery tiles. So it's really very, very smooth experience. So leaving London behind us, we are now back in the high 20s, low 30s. That's still with the number of world objects set to max. And we're starting to approach the Gatwick area. So we're about to find out how UK 2000 scenery blends in with this package. I think it will be rather smooth, because in the world of FSX we could also use the UK 2000 scenery packages in the Orbx scenery, so it would surprise me if you couldn't do that in X-Plane 11. But we'll see. It's coming up. In fact, there it is already. So the first impression is that this looks rather smooth. Don't see any weird edges surrounding the UK 2000 scenery that contrast with Orbx. But let's take a closer look. So let's descend slightly. Well, I say this looks pretty nice. Nothing strange in here. So this works. Let's continue to the south, see if there's something nice to be discovered around the south coast. Let's just see if we can find the Worthing area. On the horizon we can now already see the South Downs, which is also a wonderful area to go hiking. And it's not just the houses, it's also the trees, etc. It's just phenomenal. The different heights of the trees, etc. There's not a lot for me to say, I just let the images speak for themselves. Because this, well, this is just wonderful. So here we are over the South Downs, which is a ridge of hills between the Channel Coast and the Backlands. That's Shoreham Airport. So let's just take a look at Worthing. And then make a 180-degree turn and turn to the east. does look like they included some, at least some basic buildings for the airfields. The airfields themselves are not included in the download, from what I've read. The highly detailed Orbx airfields that well, are famous, of course. They will be separate payware downloads, so you can just pick the ones that you like. But at least there seems to be a basic build-up in every airfield so far. Of course, that's so. My guess is that will be with standard standard objects, so it won't be custom made for that specific airfield. It won't be in full detail. But at least there are some hangars, some buildings, a control tower on every airfield so far. Well, I think I can summarize this scenery in one word, which is stunning. Maybe two words, which is absolutely stunning, but it's well, like I said, I just let the images speak for themselves. It's an amazing bit of software that can be purchased for X-Plane 11 right now. And all I can say is I can't wait for the other parts of the UK, and I certainly can't wait for the Orbx EU Netherlands package, which I hope will release this year. I read that earlier this year somewhere, or I heard it, that was the roadmap that they had, so I hope they can stick to it. But well, I can keep flying for hours, but I don't think well, that it will be that interesting for you to watch further. So I'll just keep on flying towards the east for a little bit. So I think I will just start to summarize a little bit here. So when you buy it, prepare yourself for a long download and install time. It took 2.5 hours on my PC from the moment I purchased the product till the moment that I could actually make my first flight. After install, check your scenery packs file and make sure that the order is the Ortho line, the lowest of the three, then the overlay, and then the custom. And well, if you have a low-end machine, don't run it on maximum settings, of course. Right now I do, and I get some very decent frame rates, but that's because this is just water and it doesn't have to load anything, as you can see. Low to mid 50s frames per second when looking that way, and when looking over this part, that drops down to like low 40s, high 30s. And this is not a very dense area. If I fly over London, it drops down to, well, let's say low 20s. So it does have a frame rate impact, but it's well, I thought it would be worse, let me put it that way. So I'm really happy with this. And with the area being covered is like all this, you can have hours worth of fun just exploring only the southern part of the UK. So from my perspective, I think that for 55 euros you get a beautiful piece of software and hours upon hours upon hours of fun exploring everything. I'll just keep flying because I'm not tired yet. So anyway, we are now flying over the Beachy Head area, which is a cliff on the south coast of the UK next to the town of Eastbourne, which should be over there. It's quite a significant landmark with the lighthouse in the sea, which is down there. With these famous white cliffs. And this is not Dover yet. Dover is way further to the east. But this is the Beachy Head area with Eastbourne. So let's just take a quick look over here. That would be the Eastbourne Pier. Very nice detail in the UK is that you even have the cars driving on the left, which to me as a Dutchman is still the wrong side of the road. But I think that's a discussion that will never be sorted. Anyway, Eastbourne. Lovely rendition. I thought there was an air show here each year. Not completely sure of that. So I'll just continue towards Dover and I'm back with you guys as soon as I reach that. See you in a bit. So en route to Dover, this is the Eurotunnel entrance in the UK, which is close to Dover, with the railroad emplacement next to it. This is where the high-speed trains towards France enter or exit the UK. Very close to Dover right now. We are 8 miles away, so let's just make a slightly right turn, because if you want to see the white cliffs we have to fly over the sea. So let's just keep the airplane on this heading right now. And then we should be all right. That's Dover coming up right there, with the piers for the ferry harbor, and these are the famous white cliffs. So let's go a tad further to the right, so we can have a good view on Dover from the sea. And then from Dover it's a turn north towards the Manston area. Or the Thanet region with Margate, etc. A couple of years ago I made a hike over the White Cliffs, which is to be recommended. And it's also quite a sight to look at the ferry harbour in Dover. The amount of lorries going in and out of ferries and all the other cars. It's an amazing sight. Let's see if we can find Dover Castle. That should be somewhere in here as well. I think that's it. Down there, not really sure. This looks like it. Yep, there it is. That's Dover Castle. Like I said, with the ferry harbour and the White Cliffs. Don't look exactly white in here, but they are in real life. Something is wrong with the, or seems to be wrong, let me put it that way, because this is a path that you can walk by and it doesn't run like that, so it looks like something with the mesh is not how it is supposed to be, but all in all it's a nice, very nice impression. So let's turn left. And with only 12 miles to go to the Thanet region, I'll just leave the sim running for now. It will be a couple of minutes. I think this might be Deal already. Let's just see. Yep, definitely. Little town Deal. Been there once years ago. And this area is called the Sandwich Bay because the historical town of Sandwich is in this region. I think it's somewhere down there. Let me just see. Yeah, it is. So let's just turn left. Heading off approximately 350. Take a look at the historical town of Sandwich. See what they made of that. I think the big white building up there is the former Pfizer site. Pfizer is a large pharmaceutical company that had quite a big campus in there a couple of years ago. And then when they closed it, it's now home to a lot of small companies. A friend of mine used to work there. That's why I visited this region once or twice. Very close to Manston Airport, which is now sadly closed. here we have Sandwich, so let's just take a closer look. Very old medieval town. A very old church. They didn't do anything particular with this one. This is a very nice town to visit if you are in this region. Like I said, it's a medieval town, a medieval city center. Very old houses, some lovely pubs where you can get a very decent meal. Yeah, this is the former Pfizer site, so let's just fly a bit further to the right now, towards the Margate area. That's the former Manston Airport. Would be quite interesting to see what they done to that one. Then I think this will be Broadstairs. Ramsgate and Broadstairs, yeah, there it is. Ramsgate, Broadstairs, Margate, that was it. Manston Airport used to be an Air Force base, Royal Air Force base during, well, as long as people fly, basically. It was one in the First World War. It was in the front line during the Battle of Britain. They expanded it, it had a long runway, so it used to serve as like a alternate for London Heathrow. Whenever commercial airliners had to divert, Manston had its fair share of them, because the runway is long enough to serve all the jumbos and super jumbos. So basically I think the A380 was stationed there when it came into service with British Airways, and they did some training flights with it in here. But like I said, the airport is now closed, and from what I understood, the area is bound to be demolished and houses put over it, which is an important piece of history, which means that an important piece of history will be gone in this area, which I think is pretty sad. There's land enough to build houses, if you ask me, but anyway, like I said, Ramsgate, where the ferries to Ostend in Belgium used to depart from. Broadstairs and Margate. Let's just take a look at Margate. Quite anxious to see that one. Not that it's a very pretty town, but I visited this area a couple of times. And it's basically one of the poorer regions of southern England, if I'm not mistaken. Used to be a beach site, but when the mass tourism came and everyone wanted to go to Spain, things started to move downhill for this area. The number of tourists dropped, and gone was the glory. But in its heydays, this must have been quite a busy site. Let me just orientate myself. That's the golf course. I think that's Ramsgate, so let's turn left. or Margate, of course. Let's see. Because from what I could remember, there was like a theme park with quite a large apartment building next to it, which were basically two landmarks for this area. So let's just see if anything like that is put in this scenery. That would be interesting. Slightly to the right. Let's head to the west, 270. Ish. There we go. Yeah, this definitely is Margate. Walk very nice next to the sea here. The beach. This is where the theme park used to be. It's not in there, and here used to be where there is quite a large tower, an apartment block with I think like 10 or 12 floors, something like that. But I can't find it here. That's the railway station. Yeah, this is the roller coaster. Well, if you know an area, you see that the rendition isn't exactly spot on, but just the overall impression is actually quite nice. So let's follow the coastline towards Reculver, which should be somewhere over here. Add in a little bit of power because we are starting to descend quite far right now. Here we go. This is it. Another big town that is in this region is Canterbury. I think I have to go to the southwest for that one. Let's just see. Yeah, definitely to the southwest. So let's just do that. Turn left. Make it heading of 210. So anyway, I think this is Canterbury that's coming up right here. It's like the biggest city in this region, known from the Canterbury Tales, and it has a beautiful cathedral. And a university. So it's definitely a very, very nice town. So far I can't spot anything that looks like a cathedral, or is it that one down there? Let's just turn right heading to 95. That should take us back towards the London city area. when we've made that, it's been quite a flight. Now this is what you call a dense forest. Look at all the trees that are placed in there. Let's turn a bit further to the right, approximately 310. So anyway, we are approaching London City again. It's been quite a flight. From London City to Heathrow, Heathrow to Gatwick, Gatwick to the Worthing area along the south coast via Dover and the Thanet area back to London City. So my conclusion from this flight is that, well, the product, it just looks stunning. Although, a side note, if you are locally known, you might want to lower your expectations a little bit. It's not that every local landmark is included in this scenery. I don't think it's something that is reasonable to expect anyway, but just to make sure that you know, for instance, what I said in the Margate area, the roller coaster, the 12-story apartment block that's just missing from the scenery. If you are from that area, those are key landmarks and you might want to use them for orientation, but they are not included. So that's quite important to realize before you purchase this product. Other than that, it's just amazing. I really like the fact that this gets rid of the borders of the photo scenery tiles and the tiles of the different seasons. Everything is nice colored. It's just one very, very nice bit of land that you are flying over right now. Overall impression is just very, very good. There are a few minor things, and like that tower bridge. I'm not really sure whether that's this scenery package or that's something in my setup. I have to look into that, because from what I can recall from the preview videos that I saw by Thomas Rasmussen, there wasn't an apartment building in the tower bridge, so I think that's something in my scenery setup. Anyway, now the sim has to load in London, so we see a drop in performance. And there we are again. So to stick to the subject of performance, well, I think it's pretty good. Of course, in the more build-up areas like London, you will see a loss in frame rates, but well, that is to be expected from such a dense region with so many objects to be loaded and placed. But all in all, I think it's very, very nice. The sim experience was very smooth, even over London. Of course, I now have the world object setting maxed out, so you cannot expect anything else than a drop in frame rates from that setting. I think that's London City up there. That's the Millennium Dome, so it should be somewhere down there. Let's just... Oh. There's the airport, somewhere down there. So in terms of performance, I think it's very, very well done, especially when you are just flying over the more rural areas of southern Britain. There are no complaints, but I wouldn't max out the setting on a low-end system, but you cannot do that anyway, so that's not down to Orbx. So I think they made it frame rate friendly. If you look at towns, etc. from a distance, it's just amazing. The placement of trees is very, very nice, very accurate. Yeah, so my advice would be to buy this product. It's stunning. If you like flying over the UK, then this one is for you. Having said all that, side note is that I've made this flight with a GA aircraft that is relatively light on the sim. So to further investigate the performance, I think my next flight will be the Flight Vector A320 into London, just to see how that goes. I think that will bring the sim to his knees, because the Flight Vector A320 is, of course, a very, very heavy add-on. But we'll just have to see how that goes. But if you use this scenery, what it was made for, namely general aviation, flying over England, I say you get quite an experience in doing just that. I've enjoyed every second of my flight, flying for the most part with my jaws dropped on my knees, because it's just stunning. In the meanwhile, we have a runway in sight, so let's ease down on the power, get rid of some speed. Flaps 1, gear down. There we go. Second stage of flaps, add in power, trim the nose up. So anyway, to summarize it in a couple of words, it's amazing, it's jaw-dropping, and it's well worth the money as far as I'm concerned. It's compatible with the add-on airports in the London area. Checked it with the Aerosoft Heathrow, which looked nice, and I also checked it with UK 2000's Gatwick, which was also very, very nice indeed. And well, if you just look at this picture on approach to London City, runway 27, I mean, this, if you ask me, this is pretty stunning. So let's set the flaps to full. Reduce the power even further. Aim for the runway end. We are on the glide path, so reduce the rate of descent. Here we go again. Now we're a bit too low. So this concludes the flight for today. Hope you liked the video. If you have any tips, tricks, comments whatsoever, please leave them in the comment section below. And I think I'll spend the rest of my afternoon flying in and out of the UK. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.